Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Rob from Heroes Avenue. In this video, I want to talk about Mtthew Vaughn. Mtthew Vaughn is an excellent director, writer, and producer, and he's been attached to so many movies I love in many ways as a director, writer, and producer, and not only in the comic book genre, but outside of that as well. And the reason I want to talk about him today is because in doing the press rounds, he's been doing interviews trying to promote his recent project, his upcoming project, Rocket Man, the Elton John biopic that's set to come out soon. And that movie looks very interesting. It's getting incredible reviews right now. And I know it's also partly a musical and not incredibly faithful to the Elton John story, but you know, by all accounts, it's an incredible movie. And the reason we're talking about him specifically is because of the comments he made on the comic book related stuff, the X-Men franchise, as well as his attachment to Man of Steel 2. And let's first talk about the X-Men. He was hired on to do the first X-Men First Class. And this was a revitalization of the franchise. It was a kind of reboot for the franchise. And I've heard stories, from people who've been following behind the scenes saying that this was actually a movie that was really rushed, especially with the VFX side of things. And, I didn't know any about that originally going into the movie, and I thought the movie was amazing. It was absolutely a breath of fresh air for the X-Men franchise, which kind of left a bad taste in everyone's mouth with the original X-Men United, the X-Men 3 that came out. So that was all well and good, and you would imagine that he would have wanted to continue with this X-Men franchise after creating a movie that was received so positively and had a brand new set of fresh faces. And he went on to do Kingsman, which was amazing, and Mtthew Vaughn had some comments to say on this, So First Class, it introduced a whole new set of characters, as I just said, and what he also wanted to do was bring on a new Wolverine. And interestingly enough, he wanted to bring on Tom Hardy, which is someone that the fans have been wanting to take on the role of Wolverine. So fans have been clamoring for that on social media, in the comment sections. Everyone thought that Tom Hardy would be the perfect character or perfect actor to kind of take on the mantle of Wolverine after Hugh Jackman so massively portrayed him for 20 years. So that was super interesting, and it looks like he had some disagreements with the studio in terms of the direction of where he wanted to take this X-Men franchise, which is why he actually left. And so that's really interesting. That's some of the comments he made, and I'll quote, let me just quote him in just a second right here. So yeah, here is a quote he had on working with Fox and their direction and decisions. That's one of the reasons I didn't continue, because they didn't listen to me. My plan was First Class, then second film was a new young Wolverine in the 70s to continue those characters, my vision of the X-Men. So you'd really get to know all of them. My finale was going to be Days of Future Past. That was going to be my number 3, where you bring them all, because what's bigger than bringing in McKellen and Michael and Stewart and James and bringing them all together? When I finished Days of Future Past script, it was ready to go. I looked at it and said, I really think it would be fun to cast Tom Hardy or someone as the young Wolverine, and then bring it all together at the end. Fox read Days of Future Past and went, oh, this is too good. We're doing it now. And I said, well, what do you do next? Trust me, you've got nowhere to go. Then they did Apocalypse, and it's like, if you flip that around even, it would have been better. Hollywood doesn't understand pacing. Their executives are driving 100 miles per hour, looking in the rearview mirror and not understanding why they crash. And this statement right here it just speaks volumes about the Hollywood industry and what's going on behind the scenes, because again, this guy had a vision. You see what he did with the first movie, and you would think that you would let him play out his vision, but and I didn't know all this going on behind the scenes. I didn't know that he was the one who, I believe, Bryan Singer came back to do Days of Future Past, but I didn't know he wanted to do this last. And Days of Future Past, again, one of the best X-Men movies out of the whole Fox timeline. So him saying that the execs wanted to rush this out sounds a little familiar, right? It kind of mirrors what was happening with the DCEU, right? And the Fox, not letting the creative play out their vision. They want everything in the now. They're not ready to play the long game. And in a lot of respects, what Marvel's doing on their side, they played the long game in many respects, and it paid off. Now you're seeing people, like he says at the end, their executives are driving 100 miles per hour looking in the rearview mirror, not understand why they crashed. Man, I love this comment from him, and it's just a shame that this Fox X-Men franchise has given us so much gold, so many great movies. The first, second X-Men, Days of Future Past, X-Men First Class, the Logan movie. Man, they're such amazing movies, but there were a lot of misses as well. And seeing seeing Mtthew Vaughn comment on this was really, really intriguing. And again, it speaks volumes about the state of the industry, and I think a lot of studios could learn some lessons from directors with him speaking out like this, and I thought it was interesting. Transitioning over to the next topic in regards to Mtthew Vaughn, he was also linked to the Man of Steel 2 project that has that's something that we've still had no word on. We still don't know the status of Henry Cavill as Superman and all that. So he was linked back in 2018 to the project because of the fact that Christopher McQuarrie, who directed the most recent Mission Impossible, he kind of passed on the gig, and I think partly to do with the backlash that the internet had on Star Wars The Last Jedi, if I'm remembering correctly. Being attached to some of these big franchises comes with a lot of baggage, and the heaviest part of that baggage is the fans in general, because of all the fan backlash that often happens when things don't go perfectly. So it's like an unwinnable battle taking on these type of projects. Winning the adoration of fans is incredibly difficult when there are so many expectations and such a heavy amount of expectations placed on the director's shoulders. So Mtthew Vaughn, again, he was linked to this project, and he had a different pitch for the Man of Steel. And while his name, reports are saying that his name is no longer attached to direct this movie. It's something that I'm okay with, just because of the pitch that he wanted to do. He says the first film in the proposed trilogy was meant to take place almost entirely on Krypton and focus on Jor-El and the impending explosion of Krypton. Though the alien planet would still face destruction, Vaughn and Millar's take would have the event take place much later in the timeline, allowing Superman to grow up on his home planet and gradually become familiar with Earth, maturing into an adult before having to reckon with his loyalty to both planets. So, and he's talking about Mark Millar, someone who he's helped adapt his own work in Kick-Ass and Kingsman to reality. So again, that was his pitch to WB. It looks like WB passed on that original pitch, and he goes on to say later that, hey man, I wouldn't say no to an opportunity if it came about. And I think the reason why I wouldn't want Mtthew Vaughn to be attached to the Man of Steel 2 project is because of this. He had his own vision that he's not going to be able to play out in a trilogy. And I absolutely love the original Man of Steel movie, directed by Zack Snyder, written by David S. Goyer. While my list kind of fluctuates and changes throughout time, just depending on how I'm feeling and my mood, Man of Steel right now sits as my favorite superhero movie of all time. Nothing is touching it right now for me. And obviously everyone is welcome and entitled to their own opinion, but that's just me. And I think I really would love to see Henry Cavill's character as Superman explored. And it looks like in Mtthew Vaughn's vision, that sounds like a totally different character. And I think I would like to see Mtthew Vaughn take on a project and see his vision play out as he would like to create it. So I think while he did seem passionate about the Man of Steel project, I think I would love to see Mtthew Vaughn, while not on Man of Steel, I would still like to see him come into the DC universe somehow, just because of the incredible work he's done in so many other films, whether he was a producer, writer, or director. Some of my favorite films that he's produced, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, I think that's what it's called, and Snatch, one of my absolute favorite movies. And then obviously his work on Kick-Ass, The Kingsman, Days of Future Past, him writing that, and his directing of X-Men First Class. Man, he has an incredible career so far. I would like to see him expand it into the DC universe, just not on Man of Steel 2. I think, you know, I don't think there's a director attached to something like Green Lantern, but I think I would love to see him do something like that versus A Man of Steel 2. Though he does seem passionate about it, I would like to see someone come on board and continue Henry Cavill's version of the character. And yeah, and you know, at this point, it's a subject in which, you know, we're just kind of speculating about because there is no announcement so far. Hopefully, San Diego Comic-Con this year changes that, and we get some news in regards to Superman. It's a film that all of us want to see on screen. You know, we're getting some great news about the Batman. Hopefully, we get some Flash news soon. We got Wonder Woman 1984 to look forward to. Birds of Prey looks to be going well. And obviously, you know, we want to see the main characters of this Justice League roster fill out, and we want to see them on screen. So again, that's my thoughts on Mtthew Vaughn, his great comments on the state of the Hollywood industry, as well as my thoughts on him potentially directing Man of Steel 2 or jumping into the DC universe. Let me know what you guys think. Definitely, this is a great discussion to have with such a great director, and I'm so glad he's been making these comments. And so thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Please just give this video a like. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so that way you're notified every time we post. Thanks guys, I'll catch you guys later. Peace.